Attention gamers. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rav, and while I occasionally will drop the dankest hardcore WoW series of the year that pulls on the heartstrings of every content creator in the space.
It's a masterpiece, yeah, people will remember this for a long time.
I'm better known for my absolute inability to climb past the most average of ranks in League of Legends. I'm always looking for the latest gacha or broken bug meta to exploit to climb rather than focusing on improving my own gameplay, and after 10 years I think it's safe to say I'm not changing. So when I saw a Reddit post about some kid crying about the state of top lane and how top gap is just impossible to overcome if it gets too extreme, I came up with a flawless idea. My ticket to free LP would be to lock in support. But then rather than playing bot lane all game, I would detour up top and hold the hand of my giga carry until a top diff was so ridiculous I could just sit back, relax and enjoy my free no skill required wins. And I feel like this could go one of two ways. Either me abandoning my ADC as a weak nourished baby leaves him behind useless and quite frankly pissed off at me, or the attention I give to the top lane ends up birthing a monstrosity that hard carries my team. I can picture their top being so triggered, me acting like I've never won a game before and them asking me if I kiss my mother with this mouth, but in reality I just used the bag they fed me to buy her dank watches and jewelry from Halskern, a small family company that makes products from natural grains to ensure the most unique products from a selection of over 1,000 is how I am pimping out my very own birther for this Mother's Day. The amount of swag their products bring the lady in my life today is so wild that I literally make her wear more than one watch when we go out, and if you are thinking that wearing 2 watches seems odd, you're right, that's why she always wears 3, and that's because they are simply the best. So if you want a dank Mother's Day gift or just something for your lady or yourself, use the link below and my promo code on screen to get 15% off plus free international shipping. Ordering before May 7th will ensure your products get delivered before Mother's Day, so thank them for sponsoring the video by spending your bag on their unique products today. Alright, so like most of my dumb video ideas, this was flawless in theory and slightly less flawless in execution. As you can see, my surprise start up top wasn't exactly me looking into singed eyes as we Eiffel Tower this ergot like I envisioned. I did do a quick base to heal, but by the time I got back this IBS-ridden fart machine was already proxying worse than a broken VPN, and there was little that I could do. After wasting another minute, we were finally in a position to bait Mr. Waternoose into an unwarranted threesome, and while for a second it looked promising, the Hogwarts babies on the red team ate their Wheaties this morning, and so the start to this strat was as bad as the LCS performance in last year's Worlds. I come bot because my plan is to snowball my top and not leech XP, so in my head I will just AFK down south when I need levels, only to realize that unlike my top laner, this tryst isn't a product of incest, so we end up baiting an all-in from the butt buddies down there, which ends in 2 homicides for my team's resident right clicker. Then I figure I will show their top laner that I am a whole year older while failing to recognize he's a level 5, which was closer than a bee's buzz from a disaster, but ended in Mr. 6 Legs having like 6 health and me being worse at closing than Steve Carell and the 40-year-old virgin. But rest assured I did chase him down and get the kill when it didn't benefit my top at all, completely defeating the purpose, and then I died solo to their top while basing and watching TikTok, so my plan was going flawless at this point. That said, despite my failed efforts to actually make this video prove something, we were having a blast and a half in the bot lane department, just slaughtering every little shitter who dared whip their dick out in Dragon Pit. And the one benefit I guess I didn't think about by doing this is, as long as my own ADC doesn't spend their time in fountain linking me nooses off Amazon, is that they get a fat level advantage over the enemy, and I like witnessing the death of a low level ADC, so I stick around for it. Really the only good things that were happening were south of the Rift Equator, as I could play as greedy as a goblin and totally not died at turret, but as a hopeless YouTuber in his endless quest for content I continued to go top with the pipe dream of making this work, only to realize that I was literally proving my own point. But in the reverse, because I'm so bad I was accidentally giga feeding the enemy top laner to the point where they are impossible to deal with. As I stick around in lane, 5 levels lower than the monstrosity that my own strategy created, I think to myself that only I can completely fail in trying to prove that a fed top laner is insufferable to deal with, by making the wrong team's top laner fed. Sure, I had some notable moments, like when I 5D chess outplayed the enemy bot lane by saying Tristana disconnected when in reality she was very much connected and craving some kills, get fucked omega lol, but the whole point in this video continued to snowball in the opposite direction of my goal, as every single death, and every single team fight, That fed kneecap popping crab was at the center of it, living comfortably alone in the middle of my entire team, and thus game 1 may have ended in what was arguably the most embarrassing way for me to prove a theory, and thus I knew it would work, if I just wasn't trash. So I queued for game 2 on the rusty hand jobber, and this one would be different as a quick level 1 fight into surprise call me your daddy you blind bitch turned into us getting some early summoner spells out of the kickboxer. I went bot to soak up some XP, and thanks to Rel failing to read the patch notes from 2009 where Blitzcrank's Q was added to the game, she got yanked into tower and spanked with all our power till she went to fountain for a shower. With 3 levels under my belt, I couldn't wait to sneak up on the kicker with cataracts and give albino Charizard another kill before piecing out so that I didn't tax any XP. Eventually my jungler would catch on to my strategy of bullying the blind, and clearly he wasn't afraid of getting cancelled, which I respect the hell out of, so we got another, and the mental of that monk was starting to slip. My visits bot were largely successful too, considering Rel's IQ could only be rivaled by her movement speed, which in hindsight makes no sense because she's a dumb bitch, but you get the point. I continued zooming my weaponized Roomba ass up top and dodging like a goddamn Durango, and if my strategy of getting my own top laner fed doesn't pan out, it was looking like there was a good chance I may get the enemy top to rage quit as a backup. He may have more dashes than the text of a phone book, which makes this a perfect proof of concept, as every time my ganks left him wounded and ready to be devoured by the Liberty Bell lizard up top. Team fights were starting, and I was so excited to show off the fucking Frankenstein up top that I crafted as the early signs of me hand delivering more variety into his diet were looking promising, but as the game went on, a horrible reality presented itself. I got someone fed who was actually the dumbest player alive, as time after time I would just find him in the middle of every enemy and their uncles all at once, just soaking up all the abilities to the point where you could have called Cho'Gath Crypto Zoo, because everything I invested into him turned out to be a fat pathetic nothing burger. So naturally I queued again, and this time I figured I would get my first 2 levels bot lane so that I could be useful in my first surprise visit top. This worked perfectly, as the first time that sobbing midget came to put a ward down I slowed him down like Imodium slows down shit, as I kept him slowed and ready to be blowed long enough for King Spin to win to arrive and claim his sack of cash. Every time that crying Band-Aid shoved up to tower I would be there, ready to make sure there was no escape from the spinning swordsman who already had 2 levels on him at this point. In between ganks I would urinate onto the man to make the age gap even more extreme. By the looks of it, I was executing my theory to perfection, as the top gap couldn't be any more ridiculously present than it was at this point, but their mid was one of those rare windshitters who wasn't utter dog shit, and our first encounter with him is when I learned that the man I spent the entire game getting fed is a pussy with a capital P. I didn't want to give up on him, but time after time he failed to use the fact that he becomes immortal while orgasming to get super free kills. And when we did have situations where it would come in handy, he would bust that nut way too early and die without doing anything notable. I kept pissing on him out of sheer desperation. But he rewarded me by showing me just how stupid I was for treating him like my little spinning prodigy boy, as I would have to flash just to save him from a shitty bot laner. Sure, the midget mummy that we hard camped was still about as useful as a chocolate teapot, but the enemy mid was performing the way I had hoped my top would. The amount of dancing around naked and dodging death like the devil that was required just for me to get this board certified dumbass to use the thousands of golden items I gave him early to kill a measly wind shitter was astounding me. My dedication towards building someone else up left myself so weak that I couldn't even ult before dying, all while my investment was yielding negative returns. It got to the point where the pussy wouldn't even look at that useless crybaby as he ran from every fight until he would eventually just get caught anyways. We were all getting completely disassembled by a literal windshitter, one named Nastiest Hooker at that, which was just the icing on the cake to me being the first YouTuber to clickbait an idea and then repetitively fail at proving that it's any good, so I guess don't try this at home. Pathetic rav out.